Another week, another candle. And despite all the chaotic week that we had with the US election, the stock and crypto market was all bullish. So we're going to talk about that on our weekly forecast coming up right after the intro. What's up, guys? This is JC, and welcome to the Wealth Engineering channel. The more you pay attention to, the more aware you become. And in this channel, we pay attention to stocks, crypto, real estate, and business to find the best place to grow your portfolio. If this is something that interests you, make sure you go bullish on the like button, subscribe, and click that bell. The first Sunday of every month, we look at the market and we do a monthly forecast. And every Sunday after that, we follow up on these predictions to see if we're on or off target. We had a lot of actions this week, especially with the US election. The stock market was skyrocketing. The crypto market was going high. You came here for the truth. Let's just dive deep into it. All right, I want to start with the US dollars. So this is the DXY chart, the US dollar index, and we had a huge bearish candle on this chart. So now we're testing the previous support. Last week, we were talking about an undecisive period for the US dollars, and we won't have a clear picture of where it's going to go until we break this support or we break this resistance. Now, it seems that based on the uncertainty that follow up with the market after the elections, most people decided to dump on the US dollars. That means they're exchanging their US dollars for stocks, for cryptocurrencies, or for gold. And this is why we have noticed a boom in all of these three markets. However, it is still unclear what the US dollar is going to do because the news that Biden was elected as a president was only released yesterday. And yesterday, there was some slight correction on the crypto market, but we're still not sure exactly how the stock market is going to react. So we're going to have to wait Monday and Tuesday to have a clear picture. But one thing is clear, if we have a break on the weekly candles from this support line right here, especially if we close below this line by next week, then the US dollar is heading towards a downtrend, and it's going to be very interesting on the crypto and gold market. And I also want to highlight that last week we talked about the ash ribbon indicator. It's almost getting ready to trigger a perfect buy on the stock market, and this is going from every market. So once this trigger is on, it's going to highlight either a good buy on the crypto market, gold, or even stock market. And right now we're almost there. We might wait about 3 to 4 weeks or even 2 months before it triggers based on previous indicators. But eventually, whenever we have this pattern right here, it is followed up by a buy signal, and usually a buy signal could also be a dip in the markets. So a great buy could be a great dip in the market. So that's something to keep in mind. However, that's something also what we need to keep in mind is how the market reacts in the next couple of weeks. If we're continuing to see a downtrend, then that means we can expect on a short term and long term that we'll get an uptrend on crypto and gold. The indicators are also supporting the bearish argument. For example, the RSI right here, we're looking at the daily, it's still below 50, it's pointing downwards, so that's bearish. And if we flip it back to the weekly, it's still the same. It's going sideways and below 50. That's not very encouraging for the US dollar. The MACD, it's still on the lines are still low, and we're almost to a cross. If we have this line right here cross the blue line, that's a very bad sign for the US dollars. The momentum building, it's not building up, it's going sideways, and we might even see some downward momentum as well. So that's also something to keep in mind. If we put the MACD on a daily chart as well, we're also seeing the downward momentum already starting. And now we're forming a lower low with this line right here. So this is not good short term for the dollar, and it's also not good long term for the dollar because we're still downward and the low momentum is about to be building up. However, all this can change should the market react differently in the next couple days. So we're going to keep an eye on it, but based on the pattern, we might see a break on a downtrend for the US dollar, and this will mean that on the Canadian dollar, we're going to see a break on the uptrend. And this is exactly what we've seen for this week. Last week, we were talking about a triangle forming and a decision time that was about to be formed for the Canadian dollar. And we also talk about the relationship between the US and the Canadian dollar. When the US dollar goes down, the Canadian dollar goes up. And that's exactly what we've seen this week. So now we officially close above this line right here. So we're not gonna make a downtrend anymore, but we're still testing this major resistance right here. And this is exactly opposite to the DXY chart, to the US dollar chart. On the US dollar chart, we were basically testing a major support. Now we're testing a major resistance on the Canadian dollar. So if you're a Forex trader, you want to pay attention to this relationship and get yourself ready for a major break. If this happens, we're going to have a major break on the upside for the Canadian dollar. If you trade options, this is something you might look into as well. You might want to put an option trade on this sticker right here, XDC for the Canadian dollar. And if we have a break here, then we can expect to have, at the very least, we're going to hit this next resistance. So that's what happens when we break a resistance. It's always going to head up for the next resistance. So this is going to be interesting to see how it happens next week. But based on this pattern, we're not going to be looking at a downward trend anymore. We're going to look at either, at the very least, a sideways continuation pattern or a break on this resistance right here. Oil futures. So we were talking about that last week, and we were seeing that we have a continuation pattern for a long time that's been going sideways. And we were looking into the elections to see if we're going to break this resistance or break the support. Now, the elections have passed. We have declared Biden as the new president, and we need to see exactly what's going to happen. But based on this pattern right here, we have a lot of weeks where we close below the EMA 21. And now it's for the first time, we actually have an entire candle that is closed below the EMA 21. So this is not a good sign long-term for oil futures. It means that we're building momentum on the downside. And if this continues, any stock related to oil, they might go downward as well. So that's something you might want to keep in mind if you're a weekly trader, if you're a swing trader. Pay attention to this. For now, we're still in the band of the continuation pattern. It has not made a clear decision yet where it wants to go. So we're mostly going sideways unless there is a break on this support right here or on this resistance here. And the indicators are actually showing a similar pattern. We're building momentum with the MACD. RSI is still lower 50s, so we can expect more bearish actions. The other thing that's happening is with the strength line right here, so with the red zone here, that means it's bearish, but it's pointing up. That means the yellow line is symbolized the trend picking up strength. How strong is the trend? And when the yellow line is pointing up like this, and if it continues to point up, it means that eventually we're going to have a strong bearish trend. And that's something to look into if you're invested in oil, or like for swing trading, maybe we might be heading towards some bearish actions, especially after the elections, where the market is most likely going to have a clear direction where it wants to go. We're looking at gold, and gold was basically going sideways and also downward, but we had a nice rebound here on the EMA and a very bullish candle as well. So as the DXY was going down, we had a very bullish candle on the stock market and crypto market as well as gold. Here's what it looks like for the stock market. That's something very interesting because the stock market actually closed last week before Biden was elected as the president. So now we need to see how the market is going to react after Biden is elected as president. One of these two choices will happen. Either we're going to test and break this resistance here, or we're going to rebound from this resistance and start challenging the next support. So this is going to be happening. Maybe by Monday or Tuesday, we're going to have a clearer picture which direction the market is going. But so far, from seeing the action of the US dollars and how people are dumping the US dollars, maybe they want to put it into assets. They don't want to keep these US dollars so that they don't get taxed. So that's the other advantage as well, that maybe people are seeing where the election is going, how Biden is doing, and they're making sure to allocate their assets so to get ready for their tax. So there is that as well. So we'll wait and see how that goes. But for now, this is what we're expecting to see on the stock market. The Nasdaq has almost the same mirrored chart as the S&P 500. We're forming a nice triple top here. So it's going to be a time to test this resistance right here and break it or rebounds from it. So we see that the EMA is pointing up. So it's basically going to force the market to make a decision. That's exactly what it's heading towards to. It's forcing the market to make a decision from this triangle, because remember, whenever we see a triangle, it's a decision maker. The price is about to make a major decision. And if we see a break on this line, then we're going to head for new all-time high. But if we see a break on this line, then we may see a great buying point or a great dip. And that's exactly what this ash ribbon indicator is already alerting us that is about to happen. It's already alerting us that, hey, maybe in the next 1 to 2 months, we may have a great point to buy. So this is something we're going to keep an eye on the short term and long term and see how that goes. Here's the chart for Bitcoin. I am going to leave a link on it because I've already made a technical analysis on Bitcoin and exactly why Bitcoin is bullish the last couple of weeks. There has been a lot of things happening on a macro level when it comes to Bitcoin, but eventually there are things to look into, because now on the weekly candle, we're starting to hit the overbought area. Remember, I put this line red because whenever we have this overbought area, it means we should start looking into dumping our stocks or dumping our cryptocurrencies, because eventually there will be a correction that's going to happen, because whenever we reach this level, at the very least, we need to have a correction and start hitting the 50 zone to stabilize the market. So it's going to be interesting to see on the daily chart. We're also forming an interesting pattern. This pattern right here is called an evening star, all right? And also this candle right here, this candle right in the middle, is called a gravestone doji candle. A gravestone doji candle is a reversal candle that symbolizes that the market is going to reverse from the previous trend. The previous trend was up. That means this gravestone doji candle is going to reverse to the downside. So at the very least, we're going to see a downward pattern to test this line right here. And if we break this line, what we're going to have next is we're going to have a test on this line. So we need to see what's that going to happen. The other indicator that we're seeing is when we have a nice candle like this, a doji candle, and then a bearish candle, this is called an evening star candle. So this pattern right here is called an evening star, and it's also a reversal candle. There is two signs here that are symbolizing a downward pattern for Bitcoin. So we may have reached on a short term the top already and be heading towards the downwards to start building momentum before we go up again. So that could very well be likely. So remember, the ash ribbon is about to trigger a perfect buy. So a perfect buy might be a dip on the EMA 21 and then getting ready to bounce again for 2021. So that could be very well likely. So on the daily, we're also seeing some actions on the overbought area. And remember, whenever we have an overbought area actions, we need to see some actions at the very least on the 50 line. Just like this. See actions on the overbought, the price readjusted so that we can go in the 50 zone. And when this is happening, it doesn't necessarily mean a huge dump on the price, but it's the symbol, it's the indicators showing the pattern of the market and how the market gets ready to push back up again. So this is how the RSI is playing itself. And when we have a major push like this, the market, it's kind of like someone is running and he needs the time to catch breath. So this is something we're going to keep in mind when it comes to altcoins. So Bitcoin's been pushing up. Maybe Bitcoin is going sideways in price, or maybe it might even hit the $13,000 or $14,000. While this is happening, we may see a jump in altcoins. So 2 weeks ago, I was saying that altcoin, we needed to start putting money into Bitcoin so that we can, because Bitcoin was getting ready to pump. Now we're getting ready to see a pump on altcoins, because if Bitcoin loses its dominance, then altcoins is gaining in dominance. So you may want to check your major altcoins. There is also an interesting pattern that is forming itself right here as well. There is also an interesting pattern that is looking like it's forming as well. So I'm going to try to draw it for you to see if you can see it. There is this pattern right here. So this pattern right here is actually called a cup handle. And usually the way it works is there is a nice curve like this, then it's followed by a downward trend. So it might go like this, all right? You might see a downward trend like this, and eventually we'll see a break from this pattern. And once this breaks, it's gonna try to hit all-time high. So it might reach this point all over again. So I'm gonna leave a line right here as green as a potential target for this cup handle pattern. And so the cup handle has not been validated yet. All right. And the reason why it's because we're not seeing a bounce between these two lines. So we'll need to establish where the bounce, the cup handle is forming. So this is the cup and this would be the handle. And after, once it breaks the handle, it's going to try to reach the it's going to try to reach at the very least something like this. So we might see a move like this if it breaks this pattern right here. So this is a very interesting pattern. We're going to keep an eye on it to see how it develops. But so far, this is what I'm looking for the long term of altcoin market. And while this is going down, we're going to have a short altcoin market, maybe heading towards 2021. And if it breaks this, then we're going to have a strong market for Bitcoins, because when this goes up, Bitcoins skyrocketed. So especially with the ash ribbon about to trigger a buy on the next 1 to 2 months. So it's going to be very interesting to see if we're heading downwards in the meantime, because we could be setting up ourselves to see a great buying point in the next 6 months. So that the ash ribbon is not a signal that triggers every month. It's something that can happen once or twice or even 3 times a year, but that's it. It's not many times. So the fact that we're heading toward a trigger on a buy on this ash ribbon, this is a buying point that you do not want to miss. So get ready for something like this, especially in the crypto market. We can see some in the short term. Getting ready on altcoins is a good idea. Something like XRP, something like Link. These are good altcoins to trade. And once we have a break on the upside again for Bitcoin, you want to get ready for that. And to conclude, let's talk about XRP. We're still about 25 cents on XRP, and this long time triangle is still in play. Last week, we were talking about how we broke this triangle right here, and we needed to see a candle that closed above this triangle. Well, this week we've seen it nicely. We also saw something else very nice. We see how the price was laying on this EMA 21, how many candles. This is a very strong price for XRP right here. So this is a nice setup right here. So we want to keep looking at that to see if we're going to close a couple candles below the EMA as it's losing momentum, or if it's going to continue to go up. Based on the signs that I saw for the altcoin market as a whole, I would say the chances are most likely going up, maybe closing above this EMA 21. So we're going to wait and see. But this is all I had ready for you this week. We're still in play for the long-term decision that XRP would have to be doing. We're still in play for 30 cents XRP. If you're an XRP holder like me, this is good news for you. Make sure you like and subscribe on this video. I'm going to make sure to release more video for this week where we're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about business as a whole. And as usual, every Sunday, we review the market as a whole. So make sure you subscribe for that. With that said, let's talk on the next one.